Hey, everybody. Welcome to Facts and Foolishness, episode 2. This is your co-host, Auntie Joy, your favorite auntie, the one that's always got your back, and Uncle Kev, like that uncle at the cookout that's going to have everybody saying, oh, did he really just say that? We are going to be talking about mental health in the Black community today. So please take note as we have some important stuff to talk about. It's very pertinent to our success in society, and learning how to deal with mental health, how to be our happiness, everything, relationships, everything that we do, it affects everything. So I do want you to take a look at our guests who we're going to have. Gina McKinney, LCSW, CFSW, Tanel Jones, LMFT, LAC, CIMHP, Judy Foster, LCSW, Sterling P. Watson, Psi D. And Kevin, please introduce our first guest.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to this episode. There's a stigma that attaches that Black people don't tend to their mental health like other communities. It's going to be, we got a very esteemed panel joining us today. It's going to get some good information. I'm excited about this. And let's get right into it. Everybody in. Is that correct?
Yes.
Auntie? And we just want to talk about a couple of things, I guess, in general. I started off, and I really want to really ask everybody this question. Are Black men really, even to this day, still seemingly hesitant to avail themselves to mental health treatment and therapy? I guess I'll start with you, Dr. Watson. And,
I'll jump in on that one. You know, I think that because of the prevailing stigma that still exists, Black men typically are less likely. You know, I think that, you know, creating spaces that are safe for them is really important. About 4%, you know, of psychologists are Black, right? So that's not a whole lot of Black psychologists. Now, that doesn't account for our, you know, licensed professional counselors or our licensed marital and family therapists, because I think that when we add that number, it increases some, but still, you know, there's not enough of us to go around. And so, and then when we talk about Black men, you know, in this particular field, then that number has dramatically decreased as well. And so men typically prefer, you know, to talk to Black men because there's this felt sense that there would be some connection, you know, or there would be less that they would have to explain or describe because a Black man purportedly knows what another Black man's experience may be in some ways. But there's so much variation even within that. You know, our Afro-Caribbean brothers, you know, our Haitian brothers, you know, our Jamaican brothers, very different experiences, social, culturally, and experientially. And so there's still that stigma. I think that with the popularization of therapy, though, you know, and so many applications and so many people kind of marketing therapy to Black men today that you see on social media and places that, you know, there's increased questioning and increased, you know, maybe I'll try this out. And so we're getting Black men into therapy in those ways. And so there's some stigma breaking slowly but surely. And it's with the younger generation, not with the older generation, because the older generation still has challenges with being vulnerable and allowing themselves to, I think somebody said this earlier, you know, in the discussion, share the dirty laundry. You know, folks hold their stuff tight to their chest. They don't want to say what's really going on, what's happened, what their traumas have been, you know, and for our older generation, I think that we see less men coming, but the younger generation, the kids are starting to come a little bit more and more.
All right. Well, I got a question because I really want to direct this one to Judy.
I did want to respond to that.
Okay, I'm sorry. Go
Because
ahead.
I see black men as well, and what I think is very key for women or black women who see black men is really to do adaptations and adjustments. I had one client who didn't want to be on camera, so we spoke over the phone, and that was fine. And the men that I've also seen want to do very strategic kind of approaches to therapy. And I've had to do a lot of, disclaimers up front to explain to them, you can say anything you want to say about a woman or your feelings about women. I am not here to judge that. I am not here to give you lectures about how you think women should be. I'm really here about supporting you through your process so that you can gain a perspective and make the positive change that you want to make. So you really have to listen very keenly to what they're interested in wanting to change. But one thing that's very true, I believe, because there aren't enough black men, because I think this is key, because there aren't enough black men in the field delivering the service, I think that also speaks to why black men don't want to seek therapy. Because black men, I sincerely believe, have to. We need more men in the field because it validates therapy. It validates mental health. It validates really contextualizing all of this to say, no, man, this really works. I'm here to help you. I'm here to support you. When I did therapy early on with young men, young boys, teens, I had young black men with me that were co-facilitators because they needed to see that black man. And when there was an issue, yes, I was the lead. And yes, I said, there was one young boy who broke a rule in the group and he couldn't go on an event, a trip. That was very meaningful to them because sometimes they never leave their community. And what I did is I deferred to the group. There were 16 boys. I said, listen, this is, we all agreed this was if you showed up late, you couldn't go. So I'm going to defer to you to make the decision of whether or not he gets to go. And they made a decision for him to go with stipulations that he be on his best behavior. And he had a fabulous time. And I learned from that. And I understand that what's really key is that men do need men and women need to bring men in and really understand that sometimes it's hard for men to be vulnerable with a woman, particularly if their issue is about a woman.
Thank you for that.
Kevin, I want to shout out therapyforblackmen.org, which is a great website that black men can go to, and you can sift through different therapists and see what insurance they take and what their specialties are. Just to wrap up what both of them said, which is great. Finding the right therapist is also a reason why a lot of people aren't in therapy. They'll see a therapist, they don't like them, or there's no connection, and then they'll stop. So what I tell people is, you're interviewing therapists when you are seeing them. You have to find the right match. Don't give up. If the first time you have a therapy session, the person doesn't connect with you, please see someone else or ask someone for a recommendation, or there's other ways that you can go about finding somebody that will be a good match for you. But absolutely, we need more black men in the field.
Okay, and that's a good lead to my next question, Judy, because it was coming at you. Antonell, because I recently had a situation where I actually tried to refer someone to Miss Jones, and what is available for the batterer? We talk about domestic violence, and oftentimes, as well as we should, we focus on the victim of the assault. But as you know, the person who's committing the assault also needs some form of counseling, because usually they themselves have undergone some kind of trauma that has caused them to become a batterer. So from that angle, what actually is available for those persons who might need intervention to kind of help them in a healthy way to transition from becoming a batterer to becoming a person who can maintain healthy relationships? And I asked that to you, Judy, and I want to hear from Tanel also, because I actually tried to send someone to her in this regard, and I just want to see what she says to that for.
Yeah, thank you. It's a great question. I'd say first and foremost, I think we all need the support of our friends and family. If it's a healthy friends and family circle, we need people that are going to be able to check us and give us support in that area. A lot of the times you'll see the abuser not going to get help because a lot of times they don't know that they need help. But what will happen is when someone is arrested for domestic violence, they will be put into some type of mandated treatment. And that is a lot of times where you can see people going for counseling and getting help. Sometimes you have to make someone get help in that situation because you don't see a lot of abusers going out and going to therapy. If that was the case, I'm sure we'd have a lot lower numbers. But the Violence Against Women's Act was a piece of landmark legislation that sought to improve criminal justice system, grassroots organizations, a lot of different programs that actually are beneficial to the abuser as well. So there are some programs out there, we just have to find them. And like I said, a lot of the times you're going to see people going into the treatment because of being mandated, which is a good thing because at least it'll get them started. And then hopefully they can get into therapy and find out the root cause of this and how to fix it going forward.
All right, this has been great, everybody. We want to take our rapid fire section now. And so let's start with Gina, if you can give us a quick understanding of the financial anxiety aspect of mental health. You're muted.
As you heard everyone speak to, I mean, mental health really is a state of being, and finances influence the way that we feel, think, operate, move, plan. It is attached to our relevance and how we feel. It makes us, it can make us feel powerful. It can make us feel completely devalued, particularly as men of color. If we make less than or not be able to provide for our family, it can create tremendous stress and anxiety. And especially, it's one of the key things I think is very difficult to talk about for men. It's very difficult for women to talk about, but particularly for men of color to talk about, to be open about, to be vulnerable about, by feeling that I don't feel relevant because I don't have enough finances. Secondly, it is the way that we look at our finances, right? It's the way that we treat our finances. It's what we've been conditioned about how to use credit and the utilization of credit and staying under 30%. All these things are very key about how to market ourselves and making ourselves be able to maneuver through the system, to be able to be relevant, to be able financially to be able to make moves. Spending within our means is very challenging because again, do what we make really support where we live, the lifestyle that we have, the rent. I mean, rent is outrageous, particularly in the New York area. It really takes you have in 30% of your income. Many people cannot afford to rent these days, much less own. You have to really have a tremendous amount of resilience emotionally and mentally to be able to navigate financially. And what I just want to encourage folks is that it really is important to sit with someone to talk through your finances, whatever they are. You can improve, you can make moves, but it's really about being vulnerable. And it's the depression that not having enough money can cause is substantial. And it's important that we talk about it. It's important that we get insight, and it's important that as therapists, as clinicians, that we recognize that someone's financial limitation or financial need, right? Sometimes we think that money will solve things, is really what is impacting the person and what's really tied to the person feeling senses, feeling relevant and not having limit setting beliefs. So financing is really key in terms of understanding what you make, spending within your means as you are in the moment with the plan of moving forward, really treating credit appropriately understanding credit in a meaningful way, and understanding that no matter where you are, you can move things forward. We have just been conditioned to think that we need more to be able to do the things that we need to do, and that's not necessarily true. And to really understand how um, we can waste money and
Yeah.
be frivolous with money is really important. And all of that is the conditioning, the messaging that we hear is to spend, to look good, to look relevant, is all attached to who we are. And that affects our mental health and our mental awareness of who we are. And sometimes in competing and keeping up, we dig ourselves into deeper holes.
Wow. Yeah. That's again so much to unpack and very informative. Thank you, Gina. Quick discussion about depression and anxiety in the Black community.
Did you want any of us to speak on that?
Well, I know you and Tanel both mentioned that that was something that you see. So if we can get a quick comment from each of you about that.
I just kind of reiterate, and then I'll let Tanel piggyback just about how I think slavery has started intergenerational trauma that has led into depression and anxiety. We do suffer from depression and anxiety at higher rates. We have other things happening to the Black community. You know, there's socioeconomic barriers, there's negative stigmas, racial discrimination, and a lot of unmet needs with services in our communities as far as mental health. So we have a lot to work on.
Yeah, I would just add that sometimes people believe depression is they're not depressed because they're not laying in the bed. And depression can really just feel like you're in your, like when your car has a check engine light come on and you don't know what's going on and you don't really know where to go from there and you have no meaning and it's a lot of guilt showing up. So just be mindful if you are noticing any of that. If anybody watching, don't wait to reach out. Go ahead and connect with somebody to work through that.
If I can add 2 cents to that, you know, I think that we have to be kind of conscious that the way that we think about depression and anxiety may not be necessarily how the clinical diagnoses of these particular signs and symptoms are, you know. And I think that because of the things that Judy just shared, you know, with our history, you know, that we can have what I call a cultural dysthymia. We're just in a malaise and we're just trying to make it through. We're trying to survive and trying to move into a place where we're thriving, you know, but we're just trying to manage, you know. And then Gina talk about the financial stuff, you know. We're trying to manage and we're trying to find ways in which we can kind of assume some sense of positive identity that might make us feel good about ourselves and may allay some of that depression and anxiety. So we go in and we spend money on stuff that we don't need. And so there's so many, again, multiple factors that play a role, but I think that we have to be aware of how we experience that check engine light.
Thank you.
Well, it's been great discussion, man. Great discussion. I could go all night on this, but unfortunately.
Yeah. We hope that you all will definitely want to come back and discuss some more of these topics on a dedicated episode, because again, there's so much information here. The information needs to get to our communities. We really need it. Every gap that there is, the wealth gap, the education gap, the health gap, the lifespan gap, we are always at the far end of that gap that we don't want to be on. And we need this information to help close these gaps. It affects everything, as you see, as we've heard these experts here say, financially, relationships with our children, everything. It affects everything, and this is the start in closing all those gaps, and for us to be able to just say that we are a well-rounded, healthy, happy people, and we really need to start with our mental health. And so yes, again, thank you to all our guests: Tanel Jones, LMFT, LAC, CIMHP, Gina McKinney, LCSW, CFSW, Dr. Sterling P. Watson, and Judy Foster, LCSW.
Joy, if we could just get if we could just get everybody to tell us how people can find them, I think we can wrap this up. And because what we want is for people to reach out, not necessarily harass any of the guests, but of course, if they can direct them to resources and places where they can get help out in the community. If everybody could just go around robin, starting with Judy. I keep wanting to say Paradise, man. I'm so sorry. Judy, Dr. Watson, Gina, Tanel, if you could just tell us what people can reach out to you, we'd appreciate it.
Here's Judy's Instagram right here.
Yep. I'm J Foster Therapy on Instagram. You can reach out and shoot me a message if you have any questions.
Dr. Watson.
Yes. Can you guys hear me?
Yep.
Yes, sir.
All right. Yeah. My Instagram handle is dr.s.p.watson. That's on Instagram.
Miss McKinney.
Okay.
Hi. Currently you can reach me by email, and that is my IG, but that's both for my business and personal. But you can reach me, I will respond, and by email at gmckinney@quadbh.com.
And you can reach me by email. Here you see my name, Tanel O. Jones, LLC @outlook.com.
Good stuff. I appreciate it. Thanks to everybody. This has been wonderful information. Look forward to bringing you back. And we will have you back. So don't try to say no. We're going to come looking for you. But our community really needs this, and I appreciate you guys taking the time to help us out.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us.